Okay, so figure out an intro now or do that later?
Should have thought about that before we started recording.
Probably, but
It's too late now. We're here.
I'll do an intro thing later, I guess. But okay, out of the way, got a couple talking points. First of all, hoping to do a lot more content with non-gameplay stuff, because even though the gameplay is fun and all, I don't want to just do that because that's every other YouTuber out there. And so I want to do more stuff, whether it be something simple like a kit review, even though that's what everybody does. Still, sometimes it's cool to see other people's kits. Also want to do stuff like the Beginner's Guide series. I want to do more with that. And want to do more stuff like this because this is kind of like a beginner's guide Q&A in a way, but also kind of just us talking about our experiences with Airsoft and just kind of having a good time with it. So hoping to do more of this stuff. Doubt these guys need any intros because you see them more than you actually see me. This is the Wolf. This is Red. If you hear me calling them out on the battlefield, here they are. And so we're going to go ahead and get started here. I got a couple talking points. We're going to try to follow these loosely. I didn't write down like the specifics of what I'm going to talk about each. However, for stuff we're going to be talking about with the drones, there's some stuff people asked about that I will bring up. But we're not going to start there. We're going to start somewhere a little bit smaller. And let's go ahead and start off with fields we've been to. So overall, we've not been around to different states and everything. So the only fields we've really been to are the ones here in our local area in Oklahoma. And so the main two would be JTC and T1 that we've been to. Apart from that, it would be AOs for milsim events like Milsim West and AMS, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But I'll go ahead and start with Red. Kind of talk about what you like and dislike about T1 and JTC. Not like versus each other, but just like pros and cons of both. What do you got?
Well, JTC was the field we started on. It was our first experience at doing Airsoft.
T1?
Yeah, when it wasn't just you and me fighting each other in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Backyards. And so when we first started going there, I really didn't know what to expect. T1, from playing on it, it makes me think of more of a woodland push. There's a few buildings scattered around, but a lot of the combat is done either on the ridge side or on the side of creek, with elements going up the middle. So it's mainly the main field.
Kind of like a woodland.
Push, are where people typically do like splitter tactics, where they divide up into three groups down the three avenues. Not a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
Buildings there.
They got the plywood buildings, and some of them are kind of cool, but most of the building aspect is in Big Town, which for their milsim days, you don't really encounter those unless you're on tan, which even then you're not fighting in those buildings, you're just walking past them.
I'll piggyback what you're saying there, though. I love the environment of it.
That is true.
Where else? Like the creek is literally like a 15
it's
foot,
really
20
cool.
foot height difference
and
from the top
sneaking
to the bottom.
around to try to get behind.
Exactly.
It's really
I love
cool.
the environment, and it really is like it's just the untamed woods. You're just having to get through.
It'd be like if we had a event out here at our place, trying to walk in through these creeks. That would be really cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a little bit more cover than here, because here's just like, at least in the fall and winter and winter time out here where we live, we got about 10 acres filled with mainly just dry creek beds, and so it looks really cool. But for Airsoft, you're going to be able to see movement through the trees and stuff, and so it's not too much hiding unless you go behind the barriers, which is still really cool. A lot of cool like ambush setups you could do. But as far as like Airsoft, it's not the best for that, at least for just the dry creek bed. And then in the summertime, where you can hide very easily, you got all the briars, brambles, and snakes.
Yeah.
The field makes me think of like more of a like a jungle or dense wood with outposts, because there is a few buildings there. We got the B.O.S.S, but then those B.O.S.S or Hell's Hallway, which is that prison cell building, those become like the main focus points where everyone's trying to pushing through all the brush from the creeks, hiding, popping their heads out, shooting people. where you can't really see them, but they all end up converging on these
It's
like,
a
small
good
outpost
Exactly, and
buildings.
then you have the
combination.
small towns for the
Yeah.
objectives and
Yeah.
everything like
It's
that.
a
I
cool
like that.
combination. I wish it had more of actual buildings, but they've actually talked about that before. They can't have like actual buildings because of code issues. If they do have actual buildings, they need to have safety inspections periodically and all this whole 9 yards. That for an airsoft field is really not worth it. It's not, especially where they are at, because where they're located in OKC, they're in that OKC city limits, and OKC in the Norman Metroplex area is very stingy on a bunch of that stuff. So it's really painful.
Like, off the, like 4T1, like if you go there regularly, you'll see if figure out what works best there, like DMR or rifleman. We never get any SMGs really or close
You
range
can.
rifles.
I haven't seen a ton of DMRs though, mainly because people try to shy away from the minimal engagement distances. Because yes, it's cool to be able to shoot as far as you can see, but at the same time in airsoft, a lot of times if you're that far away, you can do something where you're moving around to get closer. And for me at least, I'd rather have the ability to where if I'm walking with my gun down a trail, I see somebody pop up behind the creek bed, I want to be able to just instantly pull up my rifle and take a shot rather than try to get my pistol and transition. I just rather not have to worry about that. If I was a sniper, on the other hand, that's a slightly different story. I could do that. It's a different mindset because you're not patrolling through the creek or through the woods. You're crawling up to a known position, and
Now,
so it's a little bit different.
JTC is a different story because that's in Bexhill, man. That's lot more buildings, and the woodland they have there is all mainly flat terrain.
Yeah,
And
exactly. The woods are a lot more taken care of, so it's less, which can be nice because then you're walking through. Well, you can actually walk in a straight line instead of having to zigzag around the terrain. But it can be nice because of that. But it definitely means there's not any woodland crawls.
No,
you're not
true.
fighting the environment to fight the enemy.
It's mainly JTC feels more like it's open/urban as opposed to woods. Even though there is woods, it's
especially
less
with
woods.
the way the buildings are laid out. It definitely feels like a large broken up town.
Yeah.
Instead of like you said, kind of more of an outpost or a small bunch together town. It feels like a large spread out town.
Like, it makes me think of like someone's big farm where you get some of that woods, but then you get these buildings, but and trees like separate them. But at JC you get a lot more of the room clearing,
which is really cool. And grenades as well, because like out at T1, if you're using the buildings and around the buildings, then you can toss a grenade and it will work pretty good. But if you're not around those buildings and you can't just chuck it because good luck finding it. Which that's downside to the woods part of it. But at JTC with all the buildings, you got a lot of rooms and stuff you can toss those.
Then again, in the woods, how often do you really need nades?
That's also true.
If you're within,
you're bunched up that much in the woods, you're doing something wrong.
And if you're within throwing range, you're also within their shooting range.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pop up, expose myself to try and throw.
If you're
a frag.
in a woodland area that close and trying to throw a grenade, you're in a bad situation.
Yeah. I've had a few situations like that on the creek where it gets a lot more. Well, there's the height difference, so top to bottom, but also with because it has a lot of curves. So it can kind of bunch up.
True, they can kind of bunch up.
I've thrown some frags on creek, and I've had some frags thrown at me on creek. That's just about it.
I mean, I haven't uploaded it yet, but part 2 to the video for January's Battlegrounds. There was a time we were at the Blue Tarps, if you guys know the AO, and I was there first. My guys were staging or setting up a perimeter around the Blue Tarps. We had an ammo can that we were supposed to leave there and protect. And we got overran eventually because there was like my guys of about 6 of us versus like 20 plus of their guys came in. We held decently until the last man, but they kind of came through. They weren't bunched up enough too much, but since there was so many, they were kind of bunched up more than what they normally would. And so I was able to be inside like the creek bed, and so they couldn't see me, toss a grenade over. I got 2 or 3 of them with it, and so for a creek, that's not bad.
But it's an example of you throwing a frag outdoors instead of just clearing buildings.
I got an example of that when we were at GTC on that snow day. I got behind enemy lines when you were the Wolf, you were defending the snowman. And
that's gonna be a fun video.
I got behind the enemy lines, and they were all like 5 or 6 of them were all bunched up right at a little snow embankment peeking their heads up, trying to shoot at you. And when I chunk a grenade at them when I was behind them, because they had no clue I was there. So
and
you
it
can't
worked?
get it.
Your Thunderbee worked in the snow?
It did not work in the snow.
There,
No,
that's what. Yeah, because
I had
two
one
out of two
time.
failed.
I had one out of, I think I only threw it twice because I wasn't planning on using Thunderbees at this trip because there was just so much snow.
Mm-hmm.
But I threw one just because there was no choice really where they were at, and it worked. But I didn't throw it where it needed to go.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised. It took a good minute for it to work. So technically, if I would have like hunkered down, they thought they got me and tried to come out, probably would have got somebody like that. But overall, not. But
you know what happened with my two.
yeah. So overall, the kind of like I don't want to go like differences because the competing fields, but they're different.
Yeah.
They're different, and so
I look at them as
field wise,
sister fields, like because
almost because
They're
in the
both great fields,
OKC
just
Tulsa
different
area, JTC is closer to Tulsa, so our main reason for T1 being our local field is one, that's the one we all started with, but also that's the closest. It's an hour away versus almost 2.5 hours away for JTC. I mean, at that point, we can almost go down to D14 in Sanger.
Yeah.
But they're different. There's usually a lot more attendance at T1,
True.
but there are also a lot more kids. And so you have like more birthday
Wow.
parties, kids in groups, and so you have more people,
Yep.
but there are more kids versus JTC. You may have fewer people, but they're usually the little bit more experienced players. And so it's a different
that's
atmosphere.
because like where it's located. Like GDC is
That's
more
also true.
is out of city limits. It's more off the highway being passed.
OKC is enough.
Hey.
It's close enough that moms and dads can bring
Yeah.
their kids.
And the firing range right across the street.
That's really cool.
T1's
The
like,
atmosphere.
Talk about some ambience, yeah.
Yeah, JTC's got a firing range with actual firearms on the opposite side of the highway, and you can
GDC
hear it.
doesn't. It's a.
It's not theirs, it's just they have it.
Training facility. Or
I think it's something like
Thought it was
that.
a public shooting range, but yeah.
Some
Maybe
shooting range.
both.
But like actually on the snow day,
It's
I was
really cool.
sitting. I think I was defending something, but then I hear off in the distance crack, 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 and I'm like, oh, Moose is fighting with the boss. Wait, no, he's not.
Someone else is fighting a target.
No, that's not a boss unit. That's a real one.
That's really cool. Probably if I think about, I'll talk about the boss unit here in a second.
Great device.
Yeah.
It's cool. So with the JTC and T1, they're both really cool. As far as other AOs we've been to, we haven't been to any other fields. We're wanting to make a trip out to Misfit just to try it. We've heard some good things about it.
Yeah.
Its setup is also different. So there's like 3 main fields apart from the Tulsa fields, which we're not going to talk about. But the 3 main fields in Oklahoma is going to be JTC, T1, and Misfit. And what's cool is they're all 3 very different. JTC is more of the urban buildings.
Yeah.
T1 is more of the woodland, creek. And then Misfit is, I call it like a California field. It's mainly just like a indoor field with plywood.
Yeah.
Like
It's the old-fashioned classic airsoft style stuff. So nothing wrong with it. It's just it's a different
Basically
style.
more like paintball.
Different. Yeah.
More of like more like an old airsoft, like the classic airsoft.
Before
style.
airsoft guns got good enough that we could shoot 100 feet.
Pretty much. Back when like Nerf guns and airsoft guns were like interchangeable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was, my goodness, we're old.
We are.
Other than that, it was just like AOs for milsim events, which we've been to milsim West. He's been to AMS with us. Roosevelt was AMS.
That was it.
Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the AO for Battle Springs Ranch. Battle Springs Ranch for Salsk, Operation Salsk, or Storm Salsk rather, for milsim West. So excuse me, let's talk about that for a little bit. Talk about AMS first because we've all 3 been to that. So let's just talk about ESR 19. If each of us have only been to an AMS event once, we've been to milsim West before that. But the AO was really cool.
Yeah.
Apparently, in the past, they've had floods there during gameplay to where they would have to like get on top of cars and have, I think, even a boat come out and get them one time or something.
That is what Corey was saying.
Yeah, we weren't there for that. For us, it was just a really hot day.
Yeah.
It was like 100+ degrees.
People did get
I was
escorted off field
told
for heat.
I was told that ESR is like the bad luck event, right? That like everything goes wrong at ESR. Like I was told one year it snowed and it was freezing, and then one year it flooded, and then
our year was hot.
And then I was told, separate from the flooding, there was horrible weather like storms and tornadoes, right? And then this time it was hot, and not just, I mean, it was 95 degrees, 2 buildings on the field, and it's a square mile with almost no trees, because almost in the Wichita Mountains, right?
It's pretty much just cars.
The only shade that there was cars, and I remember like
iron, metal cars.
Right, so it's radiating off the heat. But I remember to get shade, literally like laying down beside a car on the shady side, right? Because like how do you take shade, get shade behind a car? Like literally laying down. There's a couple like RVs and stuff out there that you can kind of, but still you have to be like on the shady side. You can't go inside, and it's still radiating off the heat.
But it was a typical AO, but by far that event had the best player interaction.
That was true. I was really surprised because I've heard a lot of bad stuff about major milsim events with either cheaters or I call them main character wannabes. They'll essentially be the team of guys that they think that their squad is going to be the one that's going to be written in the history books of who won this event, even though there are no winners and losers. They go out there to win, and they go out there to make it a point that it was their squad who won the day for everybody. And a lot of times that's where you get your toxic players, the ones that don't call hits. In fact, to the point where I've seen so much and even heard about it from other people, the major milsim events like this, there's no point in buying all the grenades except for atmosphere, because they're cool, but nobody calls them.
Wow.
This AO, though, felt different. At least this event. I don't know if it was the AO or the event, but maybe it was so hot all the bad apples left or something. I don't know, but we didn't have really any problems, per se.
Anytime I was near an enemy player or even ally, if you killed them or they killed you, they were going up to asking, how was your day?
Need some water? Are you okay? Yeah.
In fact, one guy even handed me a water bottle before that was on the enemy team.
It was a real danger of heat exhaustion.
This is why I keep a bunch of water bottles on me.
Yes.
It was
heat exhaustion was definitely a real
with
danger.
Your chest rig, Jason.
Get started on that.
Yeah. We're gonna get started on this again.
Oh man.
We were camping next to some people from the enemy team, but we woke up one day. They were giving us scrambled eggs for breakfast.
Yeah, we camped next to the other team. We went as I was gonna say NATO. That's Milsim West. We went as
UFS.
UFS. UFS versus Cost. So we camped essentially with all the Cost members. It was a little strange, but we were like one of the, I wouldn't say the first ones there, but we were pretty close. There was like maybe
because we got there like noon Friday.
Yeah, we got there like noon Friday, so we were like
there were a few
15th car or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we set up our camping site. Didn't know where the rest of our squad mates were at, and we were here before them, I think.
Yep.
For most of them. Some of them were there already. But we got there and set up camp, and we were camping like right in between 2 Cost teams that were both from out of state. I think they were both from Colorado. One of them was one of their squad leaders. And I tell you what, some of the best attitude I have seen in not just Airsoft, but anywhere. Those guys had great attitudes, great camping buddies. And in fact, like he was saying, gave us scrambled eggs that next morning because they had some extra. The other guys gave us like some jerky and stuff.
Yeah, well, and on that too, we just like stayed up most nights,
chatting,
just talking about the event.
Yeah. We would get done with the event. We would come back and say, "Hey, I actually saw you out there. I think I got you."
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is what it should be. This is what Airsoft and milsim should be.
They're going back and forth. Like one of them showed me how he had his plate carrier set up with the sling run through it. I actually tried that. It's not my favorite thing, but it's not bad. I can see how you'd like it. And then I showed him my helmet set up with the Face Pro.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm gonna do that too." And I'm like, "This is what it should be like."
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. But what was really fun about that event, on top of just how nice the majority of the players was, there was only like 2 or 3 times somebody started fussing at each other. But granted, it's over 100+ degrees. I'm surprised tempers weren't worse than that.
Yeah.
Temperatures were.
The temperatures were, not the tempers. We had one, I don't know about Cost, but in UFS we had one guy. He wasn't in our squad, but I think he was in our platoon. He collapsed and just about started convulsing.
Yeah.
He was on the verge of a heat stroke, but they managed to get his sock shoes off of him, get his kit off of him and give him some not cold but like warm to cool water, and they brought him to the ER, I think, and he was back the next morning playing. So
I respect that so much.
So much.
There were the two guys that actually rushed to him. I don't know if they were in his squad, but they were just close by, and someone said that they were EMTs. So that's lucky.
Wow.
But like on not EMTs, like station medical staff at the field.
Oh,
but like EMTs, like, you know, they're EMT buddies and they want to go play airsoft, you know. But they're in their full kit and everything, but they're trained EMTs. So then guy collapses and like that's the luckiest
we know what to
spot
do.
to collapse. Like
we know what to do about this.
This is convenient.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. To kind of go with one of the topics we'll be talking about here in a minute, there was a team out there with a drone. Now, I don't think they used it for surveillance, even though AMS will sometimes allow it based on AO. I think they were just using it to record. I don't think they were using it for surveillance.
Yeah, it was just for footage.
Okay. We'll talk more about that in a bit. I got a lot to say about that.
I got a lot to not say about that.
But the AMS was ESR 19. It was a lot of fun. They planned this year. There's a possibility that they're planning on doing it in October. Currently on their event list, October is still open. And last I heard from Bo was that there's a possibility they might fit it in that fall time. So it could be in the fall.
Guarantee.
It's no guarantee, but there's a chance. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Spoiling their secrets.
Yes. For milsim West, it was a little bit different.
That was one massive ruck march.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. I had to swap batteries out before we started talking about the next topic. So milsim West, he didn't go to us for milsim West. In fact, I don't think we met yet.
No, we had. I remember
okay.
For a few months. I remember you guys talking about it.
That's
and
right.
I remember being at home, toasty, warm, and I remember it was 30 degrees outside.
Let me tell you about operations or Storm and South. So, for one, milsim West and AMS, let me just get this out of the way. milsim West and AMS are like the two major national milsim organizers in the U.S. They are extremely different in how they are carried out and how they are ran. So, for example, the milsim West is more of a military training simulation. Their goal is to not make you have fun, not make you win or lose. Their goal is to make you have... I loved how... I was listening to Zulu Outdoors podcast, and they kind of worded it like this. They said... their goal is to make you have an experience. Whether that's good or bad, an experience is their goal.
You're not having fun, you're having an experience.
Yes, and yeah, which to a lot of people that is a lot of fun, and a lot of like veterans will go out there and do that. And so in comparison, you'll usually have better attitude players with milsim West than AMS because of that, but also not. It's very AO specific. Here's why. So Selsk is not an urban thing at all. In fact, there's one building on the entire property that you're able to do anything with, and that is Selsk. It's the shoot house because it's at Battle Springs Ranch, which they have a gun range and stuff out there. And so in this shoot house, that is where the target is. That's like the building. So this was NATO versus RES-4. So RES-4 had control of the building, and so they essentially were able to camp and everything inside of that building, out of the elements and everything. They had it cozy. NATO, on the other hand, their goal, or for the story, was to storm Salsk, which was the name of that AO, or the event. And so Salsk is mainly a ruck march. It is you're trekking through the woods on trails with your whatever gear you got. A lot of guys brought a lot of gear. Red and I brought a moderate amount. Like, we brought what was required and then just a little bit extra. Our downside was that we didn't have the best packs for it because we were cut with budget, because most of our stuff we had to buy because we didn't have it before, because we had never done like a major milsim event. Now that we've done that, we didn't have to buy hardly anything for AMS. But so either way, this event is made to, or this AO rather, is a pain because you're just walking through the woods. And in fact, the actual event didn't even start till it was dark. It's an experience. The experience didn't even start till it was dark, and when we finally got to our camp, dropped our rucksacks to go attempt to storm Salsk, this was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and we were walking through like all the thick Oklahoma weeds that are taller than our heads, pitch black. And we were not allowed to turn on flashlights. And the flashlights that we did carry with us, we had to have a red light on it so it wasn't near as bright. But we weren't allowed to turn them on because with guys with nods, it's like a beacon. They know exactly where you are.
Everyone was renting nods.
And just about everybody was renting nods because, especially with this AO and milsim West tries to highlight their night games. My theory, whatever, is that it's a lot of their money is in nod rentals. But at the same time, where else do you go to have nods in night games with that many people? So in their defense, there's not much. No, it's not too many places that you can do that with. But either way, it did make it bad for us. I didn't spend $200 to rent nods for the weekend, and we go out there, and it's pitch black. So us without nods can't see a thing. It's just you're walking 5 feet behind the guy, and you are following the sound more than you are the silhouette, because at this point you can't even see the silhouette. The moon was like a half moon, and usually it was in the direction we're walking, so what little night vision we had was killed by the moon. Wow. And so it was bad. Our first firefight was from the friendly fire. It was like 3 different platoons of NATO shooting at each other, which apparently is common.
What happened was there was 2 Rust 4 guys that were like scouting to see where we were. They fired a few shots and booked it. Then the rest was chaos.
Everybody else opened up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah. It was really cool, though. So out of all that...
That's a really good
I'm not going to trash talk anything, because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't necessarily like, but there was stuff that I didn't like, but I liked that I didn't like it in a way, because it's that experience, right? But what was cool was, so you're sitting there at night, you can barely see anything, and then all of a sudden, the blank fire goes off, BBs are flying past your head, grenades are going off, people are yelling. You're in a row of guys, about 20 guys, walking through this field, ducking down beneath the machine gun fire. It was cool. I don't want to talk too much about this topic, because I could sit here and talk a long time about it. But the coolest part that I had, that I think we all had, was actually when we got to the shoot house to try to storm Salsk. And so pretty much the entire NATO force is surrounding this central point. Now this building is technically 3 stories. It's got the main shoot house, all made of like sheet metal type stuff. Then it's got like a second floor, which is like a smaller box on top of it. And it's got a little bitty tower on top that doesn't really have any doors or anything. It's just like a little staircase to go up to it, which then has a giant spotlight that they're then shining around almost like a prison or a stronghold of some kind. And so we're walking up to this place. We would see the light coming our way. We would all duck down in the grass as the light would go over us. We'd pop back up, walk a little bit further, and we'd just keep doing this. And that felt like a movie scene as it was. But once we finally got shots started going off, because the guys with nods and everything, blank fire's going off, BBs are flying, smoke grenades were thrown, and so the only thing you can see is occasionally when that light would pass through and shine through the haze of the smoke from the grenades, you would see silhouettes of guys running through trying to make it to the building. And it was a movie scene. I got fairly close to the door, but my thing is, if I made it into that door, you know how many Rustford guys would have probably been sitting there just like...
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been able to do much. I didn't have any grenades or anything either. But it was really cool. Either way...
Until the weather picked up and it rained for 6 hours.
Yeah, it rained for 6 hours. We sat in the rain for 6 hours with a poncho. Half of us fell asleep sitting there because we were told, all right, we're sitting here, we're waiting for operation, or we're waiting for Rust Forward, and we're going to ambush them type of a thing. We were in the open. We didn't make any sort of defensive positions except for some guys started to dig trenches, which was pretty cool. But they were out there digging trenches, made some machine gun nests and whatnot, and so that was pretty cool. However, like I said, we sat there for 6 hours. He got sick, and so like really, really sick, so we had to leave the event early. He's allergic to cigarette smoke, plus all the wet, cold rain. It was like 30, 40 degrees most
you
nights.
got the real infantry experience.
Yeah. And so it was bad.
Was cover. I was thrown up by the end of it.
Yeah, it was bad. But then, essentially, it was right at dusk.
Infantry experience.
It was right at dusk before stuff even got started.
Till it rained. Like they just waited inside the building.
Yeah, and so later we found out from some guys that go to T1 that went as Rust 4. They said that we just sat in the building. I'm like, well, we'll just sit here.
Why would we walk into an ambush?
Exactly.
It's raining.
Exactly. That's what they did.
I'll sit in the building.
They had a couple scout guys go out and all this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. But either way, just to kind of go off that topic a little bit. So Planet Night is another thing I wanted to talk about. Naturally, we don't have the experience with nods and stuff, but I didn't want to talk about it from like a veteran to veteran perspective because we're not veterans per se. We haven't been playing for these 20 some odd years.
Veterans are already going to have these answers.
And they're already going to have most of the answers anyway. And so this is made for like you guys just want to like listen in. So other than Milsim West, all three of us went to an event at JTC called Blood Moon Rising. It was their Halloween event, and that was so much fun.
There also was the T1's.
That's true. I forgot about that.
The
4th of July
event. Yeah. That went until. I know it went at least until dark.
I think it was like 10, roughly 9 or 10.
Yeah. They played. It definitely was dark by the end of it. I don't know.
I didn't have flashlights then, though.
Yeah, none of us did.
None of us did. So we were just walking around in the dark.
To say it played like a night game maybe wouldn't be the
more
right
like
thing
an
to say.
evening game.
But yeah, it definitely during the sunset
game.
you got to worry about the extra fog and things that come.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what the normal PID target identification got really lots of friendly fire.
There's a lot. It was funny
because make it sunset and then okay, are you wearing multi-camera or are you wearing green, and then it's
they also didn't do it based on camo. It was like based on tape. It got to where even the fluorescent tape you couldn't see.
Yeah, you just see tape waving and it's like.
What color is that?
I had several experiences where I'm like looking at a guy and he's looking at me and I'm like, and he's like.
So, and then you walk up close and
what team you on? Like,
I don't know. You tell me. They just both walk off.
I got a really funny story about that from Blood Moon. We'll get there.
Okay. So Blood Moon Rising, it was if you don't have plans, make plans. Go. It's awesome. It's very well planned. It's very well maintained, and the staff there and everything go all out. They do a lot of work.
Easily my favorite event we've gone to.
Yes. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. We love the military LARPing and stuff, but this was just like a fun. It was like relaxing, but it was still had some of the milsim aspects of it too, just with monsters. And so nighttime came around. We actually did really good. I wasn't able to record that because I forgot my SD cards at home, which I'm really mad about.
We'll get it this year.
We'll get two
perspectives this
year. Now. Planet Night, what we found out was we were actually able to use lights there. So the best thing to do was to not use it until you got close. Yeah. And then turn it on just as needed.
I have some opinions on that. So I felt like it made a very good first night game. For anybody really, because of the monsters. You want to keep your light on more.
That's also true.
Instead of going from, daytime you can see everything to Milsim West, no flashlights, you're blind. Having something in the middle where
was really good.
It's sort of because of the monsters you don't get snuck up on. You have to keep you want to stay mostly dark, but you're fighting the monsters just as much as you're fighting the enemy team. So as much as you want to keep your lights off to conceal your position from the enemy team, you also want to occasionally scan the trees. And what that means is basically that you're not blind the whole time. You as you're walking, you have a general idea of your surroundings because every 30 seconds to a minute you're going to scan the tree line and you're going to know kind of where you're at. So it felt like a very good intro to night games because
for the monsters, like the monsters could not be killed unless you threw a grenade, and the grenade went off but the thing was, they then get on their knees, they're dead until you look away. The moment you take your eyes off of them, they come back to life. And they use that a lot, and it worked. And if you shoot them with a BB, they then get to go angry mode. And there's actually some strategy to that, because if the monster's over by the enemy team, pop him once with the BB, he then gets a crazed look in his eyes and starts running at him, and then you just hear screaming. It was funny. We could talk all day about that, but it's more about
night
night games. Yeah. So, like you said, having that middle ground was really cool. There wasn't a need for a strobe, because a lot of people use strobe because it blinds the person, which okay, that makes sense, but this is also airsoft. We're not trying to hurt people.
Well, and I'd say a lot of
it just depends.
Because the monsters, I mean, I saw the monsters probably more than I saw the enemy team even.
Yeah, same.
So, I mean, I had interactions with the enemy team and I did fight them, but even then a lot of it was outdoors. And because of that, I feel like a strobe just isn't that useful. Because you know, you're 100 feet away strobing me.
That's true.
You're really not blinding me.
Because JTC, even though it was an urban area, you don't want to be stuck in a building when monsters come by.
Exactly. So exactly. So you're strobing me from 100 feet away. Like you're really not blinding me. You really can't see me because the strobes. But I can see where you're strobing me from.
Exactly.
And I actually got 2 or 3 players because they were trying to strobe me, and I'm like just lighting up the strobe.
There was one time I walked behind a building. Nobody knew I was really there. The ones that knew I was there thought I was on their team.
Yeah.
So I lit 2 of them up without my light, and then I turned on my light to take out the other guys, and it was I got 5 guys in one spot because of that. So it's really cool. You just got to make sure about your team, though.
Can you imagine how cool it will be to have the B.O.S. unit? How did that?
I'm getting to that
next year. Okay.
So coming up is Gray Zone.
We're talking about night games. Still
coming up is Gray Zone, which they are gonna have a night portion. For that night portion, for my B.O.S. unit, I got me a tracer unit. So one I can actually have record, the BBs and stuff flying, but also this tracer unit has a flash simulator on it. It's got a flashlight that lights up.
See how that turns
so
out.
I'm curious. I really want to see how that looks. It's not the smoky tracer unit because that's $150 for it to sometimes work well.
Yeah.
For night games, if people can't afford
stuff like this. So
a small thing like this that is just a small thermal device.
You can get some small thermal stuff like this, but the thing is, this is an infrared device, so you can kind of see the infrared stuff, which it's really cool. We actually used it a little bit. It was hard to see stuff because it would really zoom stuff up, but
it has it is a
one-time
30-yard range.
Yes, so it's good for an outdoor thing or scanning the environment thing, but if anybody is using nods, you've got a problem. Because as bad as a light is a beacon at night, I mean, same thing with lasers. You don't want to use lasers except to if you got a LMG guy next to you, I need you to open fire. Okay, where? Watch for my laser. You shine a laser, a quick tap. They see where you pointed at. They can cover as you move on. That's how you use a laser. Because if you just keep it on and point it, trying to find a target, all you're doing is making a beacon to where you are. That is a same thing with nods. If you got nods on, this will have a trail from the infrared light going out. Think of it like a sonar. It sends the light out, and then it picks up what it bounces off from.
Actually, so I'm not the best person to explain it, but the difference is night vision is it still uses infrared light because it doesn't use the light we can see, but it uses infrared light and amplifies it. So think about that's how it works over just an infrared camera. So or an infrared camera. So there's infrared light. The nods see that, they amplify it so you can actually see. Right. This is why you'll get things like a flare or super bright lights can whitewash and actually can. Well, for one, it's going to be super bright in your eyes. Completely destroy all night vision.
If you're going through a house with night vision and somebody flips the light on.
But I believe it can actually also damage your nods because it's amplifying.
It can.
So the way that works is it's an infrared camera that doesn't amplify the infrared light, but it also is an infrared flashlight, right? So it shoots the infrared flashlight, so you can't see it with your unaided eye, but it shoots the infrared flashlight and then as the infrared camera. So if you're looking through it, it lights it up and then you can see through the camera, right? Well, if your nods, it amplifies infrared light, right?
Yep.
So what it looks like you said, a beacon is a very good example, except it almost would be more like if it's at nighttime and someone's shining a flashlight, but there's smoke so you can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like that. So it's it really is like everything is dark and all of a sudden there's a flashlight on. It's like, whoa, right? But with infrared light, right?
Yep. So it's it can be used. Just if there's anybody out there with nods that's not on your team, you're gonna have a bit of a problem.
Especially at that event, I felt like it was really cool because I said it was like the intro to night games.
Yep.
So we were running flashlights more, and I felt like it was really good, especially to have I know we scouted several buildings with it. pop it on, look at a building, 5
Yep.
seconds, scan, do we see any movement, what team are they on, cool, pop it on.
Yep. And I don't have a ton of experience fighting with or against nods apart from Muslim West, but honestly, kind of like with everything, the best way to combat that, cover, concealment, and be still.
Yeah.
Like, even though they can see you and you kind of light up, if you're either behind cover or at least behind concealment and you don't move, you sometimes can get by. Because if they're like going around trying to shoot at people or being shot at and you're not moving, they're not going to see you. Because movement still is the first thing that people see.
Yeah.
Because even with the expensive nods, it's trying to make light out of nothing. And so it's not going to be a same as seeing in the day.
Yeah.
And so even somebody who's used to using nods, they still have to pay attention to what they're looking at.
Yeah.
And so if you just stay still and use concealment and go slow, it's a hard time to see you.
Yeah.
Granted, if you're like fully out in the open, walking in an open pasture, maybe that's a slightly different story. But that's the whole thing. Why are you walking in an open pasture when there's a tree line? I mean, guys, thank you so much for watching. We're gonna try to be doing more of these in the future. You probably already know, since this is gonna be like the last video segment, I'll probably split these up into 15 to 30 minute video sections and upload them like that instead of it all as 1 hour half long recording. But we'll see what I end up doing. Either way, guys, let me know in the comments of different talking points you guys want us to talk about next, or if you have any questions regarding drones and use of airsoft legally and all that stuff, put them in the comments. And if I don't know the answer, which I should, I'm a certified pilot, but if you got some weird question or scenario you're asking about, I'll get you the answer. But then, guys, got anything else? No? Okay. All right. That said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.